Willie D Live.
What's up, family? If it's your first time checking out the show, let me know what city, what state you're coming in from. If you're outside of the U.S., let me know what country you represent. Throw up your flag. Family, I need you to smash up the likes, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Also, if you have not done so already on YouTube, after you subscribe, there's a little bell next to your subscribe button. Go ahead and click that thing right now so you can get your notifications each time I drop a new video like this. That way you be in the loop. Yeah, fam. Let's go straight on in with this one. So, Officer Tatum was on the Elliott County show, and he had a lot to say. Said it with his chest, but all the way out. What I want to know is, where was that same aggression when he was on the Nancy Grace show? Remember how meek and mild and polite he was? Obedient, one might say. Yeah. When Nancy Grace would chide him, he would go very quiet, very obedient. Yeah. Where was that version of Officer Tatum when Nancy Grace challenged his views? This is what I want y'all to do, fam. I want you to check out this video I'm about to play, and I want you to compare the tone, the interruptions, the facial expressions, the volume, and the willingness to not let the host speak on his own show. Okay, here we go.
Give them both fair weight as if these are good faith attempts to present information. You have to then rely on your personal experience to say
that is. You keep saying that. That is not
weighs
accurate.
More. I mean, I think that's the way people. You can't like.
Well,
for
I'm going
instance,
to tell you. I'm going to tell you.
For instance, I have never experienced racial encounters on the police department ever by any of the officers. Most of the officers that I know that work in primarily black neighborhoods on the. I lean more towards believing what he's saying because that's also my experience.
Due to time, I have one more question I'm going to ask you, so we're going to move on to a different subject. But I am going to make this point about research. I am a consumer and producer of research.
Hold on, fam. I got to go back to that. I got to go back. I got to hear this again, family. Did he say what I think he just said? Did this man just say he have never experienced racism on the police force?
I mean, I think that's the way people. You can't like.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
For instance, I have never experienced racial encounters on the police department ever by any of the officers. Most of the officers that I know that work in primarily black neighborhoods.
That man know damn well he lied. And if you believe him, you need to get checked out. And I forbid you to have babies. I forbid you to procreate if you believe what he just said.
On the Georgia police officers, I actually mentored one of them. They are saying the same thing, that majority of our encounters are not racist encounters. My white colleagues are not racist against black people. It's a rare thing to happen. So all of the people I know, all of the experience I have, when I look at the two data points, objectively, I'm saying that I believe in the Harvard study, a professor who did an incredible study, who balanced and weighed all of the data. I'm saying that I lean more towards believing what he's saying because that's also my experience.
Due to time, I have one more question I'm going to ask you, so we're going to move on to a different subject. But I am going to make this point about research. I am a consumer and producer of research. My entire field is based upon evidence-based research. I have to read it constantly to do my work. So if I read a study that says something like a particular therapeutic intervention is useful, and then another study that says that same particular therapeutic intervention is not useful, you are making the argument that I have to go on my own lived experience. But that is not true. Hold on, I'm making a point, and then we're moving on to the next topic.
Okay.
You're making the argument that now I have two contrarian but credible research studies saying different things. So now I have to rely on my own personal experience. And the truth is, I have to go into the study and say, How many subjects did they have?
We're not to that point. I'm not saying an illegitimate study. I'm saying two legitimate studies from different perspectives.
I'm saying
in
legitimate
your
studies
clinical
still have different levels. Do you
in
know
your
what a
in
power
your
ranking is? Legitimate studies have power rankings. So
yes,
we know,
but you do not know if the study that I'm referring to, the Harvard study, is more powerful or less powerful than the one that you've presented. So what I'm saying is, let's just give both.
So
of them
you don't
equal
know
weight.
that the study you don't. But that's not how that works. You don't know. You don't
You
know
are
the other
conceding.
studies
Well,
power
go.
ranking either.
Let's do this. Let's both evaluate both of them. Then we'll come back and say which one is imperfect or not.
100%.
But this is what I'm saying. You can say
It's not about
that
imperfect. It's about who was more rigorous in their study.
if a person say that you're interviewing a person in this environment is not conducive for the best interview for therapists, and you're saying, and another study says, no, you can't interview a person in this environment. And you go, well, I get what they're both are saying. They both have credible research that they've done. But my experience is that when I interview people in this environment, I get good results. Like when people say, should you medicate a person with Percocet or should you medicate a person with this? There's holistic approaches and then there's medical approaches. At some point, you have to say, based on my information that I have derived from doing this for 20 years, this works, although this study is claiming that it does not work. That's a fair assessment.
That is not a fair assessment. You are using the word objective, but then demonstrating bias.
You have people that say that if you, well, a person can do a research on this. You can have a person that says you handcuff this way, which is the most appropriate way to handcuff without violence. You have another person that say, no, that's not the way that you handcuff. You can handcuff this other way. You can be subjective in the way you think handcuffing should be done in order to be the most efficient and proficient in what you do. Both could be accurate, but other people can prefer to do a certain act because they've done it for 20 years and it works.
So I'm gonna. Again, I want to move on to the next topic due to time, but I do not believe you are an accurate consumer of research, given the way you are describing research.
I disagree with you, and I don't believe that you're accurate.
Fair. That's fine. That is totally fine. I am happy to do exactly what you suggested. We will both consume research and then come back and say, here's what we found, and we can explain the research to one another. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that's be fair. All right, last question, and they get me out of here.
The last question. Are you familiar with the term internalized racism?
I don't know what the definition would be in a clinical way, but I can deduce what internalized racism would be. But
what would you say that it is?
I've heard people.
Well,
I've heard people say I've heard people say internalized racism is. Well, let me let you explain it because I don't want to confuse or conflate two different things. But go ahead and explain it, and then we can talk about it.
So normally, people conflate the idea of internalized racism with self-hatred. And I have seen people say, and you alluded to it earlier, people say he hates his blackness. People say he hates his own skin, et cetera, et cetera. That's actually not accurate per the accurate definition of internalized racism.
Right.
Internalized racism is I've adopted the mentality and ideas of the colonizer. So a more accurate description of the word would literally be
let's get to the point.
Internalized colonizer.
Do you think that I fit in one of these statements?
I'm asking you, do you think you fit? Do
No,
you think that the term internalized racism towards you fits?
No, and I'm glad I didn't try to guess what the meaning was because I believe I conflate the two. If you're saying that internalized racism is adopting the perspective of the colonizer, 100,000%, that's not my perspective. That doesn't apply to me. If you're saying that I have self-hate, no, 100%.
I did not say that.
No, I'm not saying you did. Let me correct it. If this phrase of self-hate is not applied to me either. So internalized racism and self-hate does not apply to me. So do you believe that one of those apply to me?
I do. I do believe the term internalized racism.
Now, we gotta. I know we run a long time, but like, you're saying that I have adopted the perspective of the colonizer.
Yes.
Give me an example. It got to be quick because I know we run a long time. Where would you derive that I've adopted the perspective of the colonizer. And can you explain
Right.
real quickly
I'll,
who that person is or who that group of people are in America today?
I'll give you a very specific example. You said that you don't believe
Family, you notice how this dude played dumb? Give me a perspective of who you think that group might be. Have you adopted the ideas of the colonizer? Come on, man. You know damn well you have. And I'll take it a step further. You do practice self-hate. There's no other way to explain it. When you do to your own people what you do, the way you throw your own people under the bus, the way you glaze white men, the way you swing from their disco balls, butt naked, with your tongue out, you absolutely are a self-hater.
slavery stole money from the black community.
I did. That's not what I said. I said you cannot evaluate if
I'll
slavery
play the clip.
stole money. No, because if racism stole money, because money wasn't even on the table. It's not like slaves could even make money. So you can't say they stole something they never had a chance to make. That's what I was referring to. It's not like black people had money and then it was stolen from them when they were introduced into slavery, and then it could potentially have been given back to them. They never had the earning potential as being slaves. So nothing was stolen from them. Now, opportunities were not provided for them after slavery in an adequate way, but you can't say something was stolen that was never available to them.
So to be clear, you're saying black people never had anything, so thus it couldn't be stolen. Is that correct?
In slavery, the ones who were slaves, who was purchased as a slave, had nothing to gain or had nothing to, they had no possessions to hold on to because they were slaves. They weren't even considered persons, humans. They were property, like animals. They had no money to obtain or to give up or to relinquish. They had no choice in it. So that you can't compare that.
So again, I just want to be very clear on what I'm hearing. You're saying that slaves had no property, so thus it couldn't have been stolen.
Yes.
Okay, that is factually inaccurate. We know that from slave documents that they did have money. They were allowed at times to earn money, and they did have possessions.
Well, hold on.
And those things were taken.
Let's talk about it because I want to be very clear about this. I studied this in college. Now you're talking about. I'm perceiving the slaves that are on the plantation that were not able to work. They not like Harriet Tubman, who was married and she worked and she was married and her husband was a free black man. I'm not talking about Harriet Tubman. I'm talking about other slaves who were in slavery, who had no possessions of property. They were not allowed to work. They didn't work in the house. They weren't able to purchase their freedom. None of that. I'm talking about those people. I'm not talking about people who were house slaves, people who were servants in slavery, people like Harriet Tubman towards the end of her life, where she actually lived with her husband, who was a free black man and able to work. Some of her family members were free. And so I'm not talking about those particular slaves. So when you look at those particular slaves, some of which who were blacks who owned slaves, like I'm not considering those people. I'm considering the people who had no opportunity to work, therefore they had nothing to build or take away from.
So that I can be abundantly clear, I believe you're just demonstrating internalized racism, because when I said, I'm going to tell you, I asked you twice, can you be very clear? Are you saying this? And twice you said yes. And then when I gave you contrary information, you widened it. I'm not considering those kinds of slaves.
I widened it because I believe that the conversation needs to be deeper than the surface level. Did they gain money or not? Because there's different there's different phases, there's different people that were in different phases of slavery. Slavery was not all one thing. There were people who were slaves who worked. There were people who were slaves who were given the opportunity to purchase their freedom. There were people who were black who were once slaves, who then were free and then owned slaves. We can have a broader discussion about slavery. I'm saying the ones who did not have an opportunity whatsoever, that didn't even have a chance at having any possessions, could not have possessions taken away from them. If you want to go through black people in general, we have to then talk about black people who own slaves. We have to then talk about the first legal slave owner in American history, which was Anthony Johnson. We have to talk about all the black people who purchased their freedom and who also purchased other people's freedom in slavery. Those who never was a slave in the field. Those who always, in slavery had a different perception or a different position in slavery. So it's a dynamic discussion. Our premise was people who had absolutely no opportunity whatsoever should not be evaluated as the same as those who had an opportunity. So the conversation was post-slavery. Focusing on after slavery was abolished, where do we go from here?
Respectfully, I don't see a point in talking about the details because you keep moving it instead of.
I'm not moving it. You want to broaden up the conversation. You asked me a very basic perspective.
Clearly, what did you say? You said yes twice, and then I said, but what about this? And then you moved it.
And then
fair question. How many times did Tatum cut off Nancy Grace? Not one time. So did Nancy's status change the power dynamic here? What happened? What happened between the interview he did with Nancy and where Nancy was very aggressive and at times flat out disrespectful to him? Elliot, on the other hand, has been very even keeled, very respectful and accommodating to this dude. And he's being cut off time and time again. He's being disrespected. What's up? What is it about Nancy that Tatum loves so much? Okay, she's a nationally recognized legal commentator and former prosecutor with decades of television experience. Got it. Now, we know that Tatum really reveres people who have a lot of numbers, because let him tell it, he got like 8 million followers or something on social media. So he don't need to do these little platforms because it does nothing for him. Tatum is self-serving. So if a person has a small platform, a medium platform, or a large platform, if he goes on it, he's only going on there because there's something that he can gain from it. Whether it's somebody changing their perspective of him because somebody has a sizable enough audience of people that he would like to get in front of, whatever it is, he is searching for new blood. He wants to have more and more people find out who he is and know who he is. He already got enough of the right wing conservative side of things. So he keep going on those type of platforms. He got them already. He's trying to extend the brand. Okay. So what I want to know is this. I want to know whether Tatum became more restrained because he knew challenging Nancy could backfire. So since we own Nancy, let's talk about Grace. If you could sit across from Nancy, disagree with her, keep your composure, then clearly you know how to disagree respectfully. So why, oh why, Tatum, couldn't Elliott County get that same courtesy? Why not? Why? See, my problem is not it's not that Tatum disagreed with Elliott. My problem is he apparently knew how to turn the temperature down when Nancy Grace entered the room. See? He knew how to do that. He knew how to accommodate the white woman. Let's call a strike a strike and a ball a ball. He knew how to accommodate the white woman. But the black man who he's actually more similar to than any of the two, got no grace, got no respect whatsoever.
I realize
And you did that several times this
you want to
conversation.
broaden the conversation,
Okay.
so I broadened the
Fair.
conversation.
Fair. Due to time, can I ask you two more
Yeah.
quick questions?
Okay.
One of them, are you familiar with the phrase moral disengagement?
Moral disengagement, no.
So would you acknowledge, regardless of whatever opinions you hold, you're allowed to hold whatever opinions you want, would you acknowledge that some of the messages that you present cause harm to people?
Yeah, no, we got to be more detailed. You saying emotional harm? You saying physical harm? Are you saying people are harmed unjustifiably? They consider to be harmed by what I say? So
I'm saying that the your opinions can be your opinions.
I have no
but the
intent to
way
harm
you
people by
hold
what I
on one
say.
second,
I have no intent.
I don't want to be overtalked.
And people should not be harmed by what I say.
I don't want to be overtalked, and I don't want to have to put you on mute. I don't think. I think some of the stuff you communicate on the platforms you do causes harm to people.
In what way?
Emotional harm
Okay.
causes them trauma and stress to hear your message. Will
Okay,
you
that's a
acknowledge
personal
that is
thing.
true?
That has nothing to do with what I'm presenting in my the way I intend to deliver it. It's not my fault that somebody's receiving personal harm in their own perspective because they don't like me saying that a black person was wrong. They feel harmed because I interview somebody. That's not legitimate.
It. No.
I'm saying these are the complaints that I'm hearing.
Let me ask you a more specific question. If I presented you with evidence of a human being whose life has been harmed by the messages that you've put out, would you change or would you do anything different on how you're putting messages out?
Well, it depends because there's no intent for me to harm anybody.
That was absolutely excruciating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good Lord. The disrespect. You would think like, okay, we should have, common respect for everybody, right? But especially for my brother. That's my brother. If I'm gonna give anybody some grace, he gonna get it first. You see what I mean? Now Tatum, Elliot is a class act. And really, when I first heard about this, I knew he was going to dismantle Tatum. And I knew Tatum would pivot, switch it up, move the goalpost, avoid answering the questions directly, always pivoting, always putting a spin on something. He said, well, you trying to say that, I'm wrong because I tell black people. You notice he never say, you trying to say I'm wrong because I tell white people when they wrong? What? He never do that. He always got a collective insult, accusation or criticism or critique for black folks, but never, ever, 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 ever for white folks or any other folks. It's something mentally wrong with you to think that way. You got to be mentally ill to think that way. Going into the comments. What's up? What's up? Protected by God. Jules Butler. Johnny Blaze. What's up, Cindy Lou? What it do? Eunice. What's up, Eunice Tillman? Susie. What's that? Susie's. What did I say? Susie's. Susie Sandifer. Susie Sandifer. Okay. Tammy Wade. What up, Tammy? Be Too Smooth. Carlos Jones. What up? Ernest Smith. Call that boy Django. Phenomenal. Big 3G. Here for it. What up? What up? Chris Norwood. What's up, Chris? I see you here for it. Here for it. I'm not here for it. I don't want to talk to that dude. Like, you know, Elliot got the patience for him. I don't. I heard him talking about Tesla Figaro. He don't want that smoke with Tez because he'll get ate alive, and he would be disrespectful because he have a disdain for black women. So I think that at some point he would disrespect Tez, but Tez know how to hold her own. Tez will crack that boy head off. She'll beat his head in, and he knows it. That's why he gonna act like he talking about. Yeah, I heard of it, but I ain't know her name. Yeah, you know her name, lying ass. You know her name. You seen her enough on Fox. You know you watch Fox. You seen her pop off on Fox enough. You seen her on CNN. You seen her around. You know. Y'all crisscross some of the same circles. You know. You don't want none of that smoke. You know, Elliot was on par for his profession and what he do. Elliot is a smooth, calculating, thinking guy type of dude, and Tez is all of that too. But Tez got something on top of that, and she don't mind going there. She don't mind going there. Elliot's the kind of dude. If Elliot take your life, you'll never see it coming. You'll never see it coming. You wouldn't be able to read his poker hand. Ted's gonna tell you straight up, I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get you. I'm gonna take your head off. She'll tell you and then proceed to take it off. Two different styles. Two different styles. But and he couldn't handle either one of the styles. It's just that Elliot gave him more grace. He wouldn't have gotten that grace with Tez at all. He wouldn't have got that type of grace, you know. And there is nothing wrong with either style. You know, everybody got their own style. Everybody got their own way of doing things. He couldn't get around that. He couldn't get around not one single question that he was asked. He couldn't get around it, which lets you know he ain't as smart as he tried to act like he is. And he said he went to University of Arizona, and that would explain, you know, probably where it really switched. That's probably where it really switched up for him when he went to the University of Arizona and got around those white women. You know, you playing football and you black, you from the black neighborhood, you go to the black school, you know, you get the sisters, you get action at the sisters, but they don't fall over for you. They don't bend to your will like those white girls do at those white universities, at those PWIs. They don't do it. The white girls go crazy over athletes because they know that's a ticket. That's the ticket. They go crazy. And some of these black dudes who ain't never really had no action, they go crazy. They lose their mind when the white girls jump on them. Next thing you know, they're making videos. They're all in the videos criticizing the sisters. I'd like to see one of these Sambo's mamas or daddies come out publicly once and catch him, like maybe catch him while they're like they talking, you know, while they're orating or something. You know, catch him somewhere giving a speech and just walk up on him and start whooping ass with a belt. I didn't teach you this. I don't know where you get this shit from. You ain't gonna embarrass my family no more. You know, yeah, I like to see that. That would be entertaining. I canoe is that, or I can you too. I can't get that one. Okay, I am Pearls of Eden. Jules Butler, what up? Sister Taz, Shalom. El Rico. Okay, fam. That's my time. Big announcement coming Monday. Monday morning. Big announcement. Big announcement. Big announcement. All right. That's my time, fam. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. No more talk.